Welcome to the Exchange Room. Here, you will meet individuals who have been through unusual circumstances, who have journeyed to the far ends of what life has to offer, and who understand the world in a way nobody else can. The Exchange Room will expand your knowledge beyond the limits of your individual perception. Today's guest is Dan Jourdan. He is perhaps the most expressive person I have ever met. He is a sales consultant and serial entrepreneur who never went to college. Instead, he lived as a hitchhiker for 8 months and bought his first company when he was just 18 years old. Since then, he has continued to expand the breadth of his wisdom and experiences. And now I present to you our discussion. Welcome, the DJ.
Are we started?
Dan Jourdan, we're started, yes?
There we go. Yes, thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm excited to have you.
Yeah.
I don't know where to start. I was stalking your LinkedIn and there was just so much to talk about.
Oh my gosh. You'll never believe anything you see. You know, that's one of those things. People can portray an entire image of themselves that's completely fake. You know what it's like? It's like when you graduate high school and you're going away to college. That's the first opportunity you have to become a brand new person. Like anything that you were insecure about in high school, no one's going to know you in college. You get to start over fresh. It's the most liberating experience. And social media is the same thing. Every day, you can give yourself a new personality. And you can choose the one you want. You don't have to be burdened with anything that happened in the past. You're able to just start anew. It's actually magical.
So that makes me question then, is what's on your LinkedIn accurate?
You never know. You know, on certain days. Even my name, so it's Dan Jourdan and DJ and all that stuff. You know, the reason how I got my initials is when I was going to high school, there was another kid, Danny Diano, who was, tall and good looking and Italian and had muscles and so he was popular. So he got his name and I got my initials, which is so much better because, nobody remembers, DJ is so much better. And then DJ turned into Deej. And then I realized something. I realized that you can become your name. So like the last 100 yards of the race or the time where you really have to focus and have you ever been like in the zone? People talk about it, like everything seems to be going right. You get that feeling that you can't lose. Well, if you have that feeling and you kind of codify it with a name, then you can call that back anytime you want it. And I realized that in high school. So the last 100 yards of the race, that's not Danny, that's not DJ, that's the Deej. Because the Deej can do things that Danny Jourdan could never do. And so on the stage or when you're really, when you're forced to be your best, you can turn on that alter ego. And so occasionally on LinkedIn, it's a long-winded answer, but occasionally on LinkedIn and those social media, the only time people see you is when you're at your best. And so you get to coordinate what you're putting out in the world. And that's the thing. If anyone needs to learn anything about social media and anything like that, it's not AI. It's not good or bad or anything. It's just a thing, but it's how you utilize it. So the whole thing that I, taught my kids and I talk to anybody about is you use social media. You use AI. You don't let it use you.
So now I want to go back to you graduated high school.
Yeah. Every once in a while you got to do that.
And you were so excited, you went out and you splurged all of your money on a new butcher shop. Is that how it went?
Well, it wasn't exactly like that.
Well, how'd it go?
Well, so, brought up in a time where I was brought up, and I guess it's similar now, you're expected to go to college. And so it's like college is part of your education experience. You don't just stop there. And it was very important, especially in my neighborhood, Jewish family and the whole thing. You're going to college. I mean, it wasn't question. But during that time, my parents, I was 17, decided to get divorced. And it's a time when you're, nobody is as confident and secure knowing the ways of the world as is a newly graduated high school student. I mean, they know everything, and so I I was ticked off at the whole situation of my parents getting divorced, and so knowing full well that college and education was the most important thing to them, I somehow wrangled the money that they had saved dutifully for this, and I took the money, and before they knew what hit them, I bought a store. It just happened to be a butcher shop. I didn't know that it was a butcher shop. It just happened to be the thing that was available in the next town over. So I took the money, I bought the store before they knew what it could do for them, and I turned it into a deli, DJ's Country Deli, and that was my way to get back at my parents and get in on my first business. By the way, I should finish off that store. I had it for 7 years or so and built it up, and I bought it for $30,000 and I sold it for $170,000 when I was like 25. And I took all that money, every bit of it, and I put it in an investment account. And my dad had never saved for retirement or anything like that, and the divorce really put him on ends. And I gave all that money to him in an investment account, and that paid for his retirement for the rest of his life.
Wow.
That and its growth, and then finally, yeah. What do you think of that? So that was the first time I started from zero again.
So that was after that you had no money again.
Start from zero. No money is relative. One of the things that you discover early on in business and in life is that most of your wealth comes from the people you know, the books you read, the relationships you have. There were times where I had zero money, but there was never a time where I had no access to nearly as much money as I needed. Because if you live the right way, you attract the right people who, there's a certain time in your life where people can see that you're on a trajectory going up, and it's not hard to find people who want to latch onto you and ride the wave. And by the way, that goes down at a certain time too. There's people, 45 years old who are very capable who can't get a job because there's a whiff of you're going to drag them down instead of up there. But there's a certain time of your life that you're there. So I was never at a time that's really destitute. When you have no money, no relations, and no opportunities for growth. And that's a function of the way you've lived.
Well, if that was you, what would you do in that situation?
Where you have goonish, where you have nothing?
Yeah.
Where you have nada. If you're in that position, it started years before. So most of the problems, all of the problems that you have, the answers are found in the mirror. So you're not going to change that situation before you change number one. And probably the first thing you need to do is come to that realization and take accountability. Every bad thing that has happened to me is because of me. By the way, nothing's more liberating than that when you understand that. Because once you say, oh, it's my fault, where you're like, boom, I just don't have to do that garbage anymore and move on to the other way.
Well, how did you figure that out?
How did I figure that out? Oh, you mean starting from zero? Well, I was never at that point for starting from zero, but one never starts from zero. And in business is where I've been my whole life. The challenge is you can, if you start borrowing money and start making mistakes and everything, you can whistle right past zero. And, and be negative. There are times in your life where you just want to fight to get up to zero. You want to get up to that point, And so, those issues, how did I find that out? Listen, we've had several times. Let's see what happened. I had a business partner in a particular business where he was going through some personal problems and whatever, trying to do a nice thing. We bought his house with the understanding that he was going to rent it and all that stuff, and it was part of the business thing. So next thing I know, I'm left with a $750,000 bill on a non-income producing property, and we go from there. And it's my reputation, so we somehow got to dig ourselves out of that, and you figure out a way.
Yeah.
You just figure out a way. There's always that. And if it's just money, gosh, it's just money. Really just money. That's one of the biggest things people need to learn. Nothing. I met a guy, great guy, what's his name? Yeatle from, he had a crazy business in Brooklyn. He sold cartridges, ink cartridges. And he's still in business, sold ink cartridges. And I asked him how he's doing, and business wasn't doing well or whatever. And his attitude was so beautiful. He goes, we might be going out of business, but he goes, thank God, the only problem I have is money. I go, I can get money back. He goes, if this is the best problem to have, because it's just money. Everybody's healthy, everybody's living, and that should be the attitude. Thank you for this problem. It is nothing. I get putz around with this, but people turn money into like the greatest, challenge of their lives. My gosh, it's the smallest thing. It's the smallest thing, and the challenge with worry. I don't know how we got onto this. I guess I took us here. But the challenge with worry is that it prevents you from discovering the ideas that'll get you out of it. When you focus too much or all the time on what you don't have, your brain literally cannot compute ideas to get you out of the place. Not only that, it won't even accept the ideas from somebody else. You hear people that are having challenges and you give them an answer and they're like, yeah, but that won't work because of this. Well, that won't work because of this. They've already shut off their whole opportunity for growth. They've shut off in their mind. The enemy is worry. The enemy is anxiety. You transfer any of those low frequency feelings with the greatest high frequency feeling, which is love. So you say, thank God, I love the fact that I have money problems. Thank goodness, this gives me the opportunity to move on. And all of a sudden, you will develop ideas to get past it. And the biggest thing in my child rearing years, where I was raising my children, is to impart that piece of wisdom in them, because then nothing can stop you. What do you think of that, huh?
Oh,
you didn't expect that.
I did not.
You? Yeah.
No.
Don't mess with me.
Is that all in your book? The Hitchhiker's Guide to...
Oh, gosh. The Hitchhiker's Guide. Yeah, so when I had DJ's Country Deli, it's going well for like 4 years there, and then my friends started coming home from college. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I think I missed something here, because they're telling me these stories and all this. And I really missed out on a certain level of social skills. Not that I was invisible, but it's just I missed out on something that I no longer had in common with people. So I figured I got to learn these things, and so I devised a plan that I left the store with a manager, my sister, who would run it for a little while, and I was going to go and take off and explore and find myself, whatever that might be. And so I went on a hitchhiking trip, and I took off, and I had no special day that I was leaving, and I had no special day that I was returning, and I took very little money, not enough to last a week. And the idea was to to get jobs along the way, to meet as many people as I could, and to gain those experiences. And I still use those sales techniques today. I mean, listen, there's a very fine line between a hitchhiker and a bum on the side of the road. I mean, you got to get picked up. You got to figure out how to sell yourself and get a job. Try to get a job, and they say, "Where do you live?" And you're like, "Do you see that bridge over there?" Try to do that. So you gotta work some skills, and it was the greatest experience. 8 months. I was gone for 8 months, and I went all over the country, and it was remarkable. It feels like another life at this point. I'm 59. I'll be 60 next month, and it feels like a different life. But I still use those skills and recount those several stories that I can't tell right here on a regular basis that are a big part of my life. It was my college experience, I suppose.
Well, I gotta ask, you said you had a week's worth to survive.
Yeah.
So then what happened there after a week? How'd you make ends meet? What'd you do?
Well, I had purchased a Amtrak 3 stopover ticket, and so I could go to 3 places. And so I took the train actually to get to the first place, which was St. Louis. I was reading a lot of Mark Twain, so it was important for me to get there. And then as soon as I got there, I roamed around for a while, and my first thing was to go get a job. And so I became a beer vendor at Busch Stadium. There was an old Busch Stadium. I think they took the stadium down then, but and right across the street from Busch Stadium was a hotel, the Mark Twain Hotel. And so I got a room. It was $70 for the week, the Mark Twain Hotel. And it was one room, and then there was a bathroom down the hall, but it was like right in the AIDS was just getting started, and it was like the crack era. And so it was a true crack house. And so I was in there, and it was right across the street from the stadium. And so I did what I had to do. You could live very inexpensively. Ramen noodles, oh my gosh, they're like 6 cents at the time. I remember they were 6 cents. I would live on ramen noodles, so you can eat fairly cheaply. And I would get jobs, and then always get a job at a restaurant, because you can eat for free. Like, eating was the most important thing. Just sleeping I could do on the side of the road. I had a backpack. I was good. I was capable of kind of sleeping anywhere. I was good with that. But you always had to eat. And so you figure out how to do that. Samples. They started giving samples at supermarkets. Are you kidding me? I mean, that was like the best thing ever. Oh my gosh, I would go there. And people feel sorry for you when you got a backpack and all that stuff. So it was good. But so Busch Stadium, I'm at Busch Stadium, and it was so much fun. I mean, it was a great beer here, beer. Now, I was telling you, it was beer here, and then there's always guys with peanuts. I always wanted to be the peanut guy, because they go, peanuts, but I just had to say beer here. But there was this one section, and they wouldn't buy beer from me. They're like, we're waiting for Charlie. I don't know what his name was. It was Charlie. I'll call him that. And I'm like, it's the same beer. I mean, it's Budweiser. It was Busch Stadium. I'm like, why are you getting? We're waiting for Charlie. I go find this guy. This guy was a big, hulking, like, fat, just a guy with a big, broad smile. He was awesome. And this guy would make $400 to $500 on tips every game. Unbelievable. So I'm like, what do you do? And so I go there, I see him, and everybody's going, Happy Charlie. And I go, how do you do this? And he puts his arm around me. I'll never forget. It was like my first lesson. Puts his arm around, looks at me, and he says, boy. I said, yes. He goes, I smile more than you. That was it. Smiling will make you money. $400 to $500 a game. And I'm like, this is a life lesson that most people just give. I'm like, I have no money. I'm hitchhiking around the country. A smile is free, for crying out loud. And if you smile at somebody, they're forced to smile back and feel good and give you a tip. I'm like, this is great. So I used it. That was my first trip. I used that the rest of the trip and the rest of my life. When I see somebody, the first thing you do is a big, broad smile. It's the cheapest way to make a good first impression. And it'll work. Hey, you didn't expect that? I haven't told that story in 30 years.
I love that. That was amazing. Now, how did the trip come to an end?
How did the trip come to an end? The trip came to an end. I was camping somewhere in Pennsylvania. It was freezing cold. And when I say camping, I would find a area of woods near a stream because you needed water. And I would just pitch a tent there. I don't know that it was all that legal. It was just a thing. And it was really cold. And I remember I was trying to wash my hair in the stream because after a while you're just grimy as all get out. And I was about to leave and get in somebody's car, and I was going to stink like a mule. And so I was bathing, and my hair was freezing as I was washing it, like it couldn't. And I'm like, I think it's time to go home at this point.
Freezing hair.
And so, and then the trip home was really nice. I remember that day when I left, it was a group of people. It was a Sunday, and I only know this because there was a group of like 4 women, and I had gotten so good at hitchhiking that women would pick me up. Like that's like a rule. If you're a woman and you do not pick up a hitchhiker. Like I was so good at it. At this, I wouldn't accept a ride if it didn't come with food. I mean, I was good. I would have people take me to their houses, the whole thing. And so these women picked me up on the way to church. And that became, by the way, a very common practice that when people drop me off, like 2 types of people would pick me up. Gay guys would pick me up all the time. Just and it wasn't anything nefarious. It was just that, I guess they wanted to be in the company of somebody, whatever, in the car. It was nice and we had conversation. And Christians would pick me up, and this was the same thing with these women. They were on the way to church. And before I would leave, they would say this: "Is it okay if we pray for you?" And that happened a lot. And I'm from New Jersey, Jewish, all this stuff. At the beginning, I'm like, I don't really need this. Towards the end, I'm like, bring it on. I could use it. I mean, I think it was helping, And so they would do that. So those people took me a part of the way, and then somehow somebody knew somebody else, and someone drove me all the way to New Jersey, to the southern New Jersey, and I was staying at somebody's house, and it was like a weekend, and they threw a party for me. Like it was a party. Hey, we picked up this hitchhiker and all this stuff. And they had like a party, and I was there, whatever. And then the next day, I think I came home. I don't remember how I got like to my area, but I wanted to surprise my family. But my dad was kind of crazy, emotional. Like if I didn't call him at a certain time, it was once a week he would get a call, and if I was 5 minutes late and everything like that. And so I thought he would have a heart attack if I just walked in. So I think I called ahead and let him know. But the trip itself was, by that point, I was a different person at the end. Yeah, by that point. It was great. I had such respect for every other human being. It's tough for me not to have an initial good first impression of any person that I meet.
So then, how'd you end up here?
To Atlanta, Georgia?
Yeah.
Oh. I was in New Jersey, and I came here. I was 27 maybe, and I came here for a weekend to visit a friend, Joel Haspel. Joel was working for like Deloitte, and he was a consultant traveling all the time, and he was based out of here. And so I came to visit him for a weekend. He took me to a party, and I was there, and I really loved Atlanta. It was like, I came here on a Thursday, and we went out to eat, and then it was in Buckhead, and it was like an event, and I'm like, what's going on? Anything going on today? And he's like, yeah, well, it's Thursday. I'm like, oh my god, this place is great. And so then he took me to a party on the weekend, and I met some girl, and she had blonde hair and a southern accent, bakes pies. Why, this place is unbelievable. I went back home, moved here 2 weeks later, asked the girl to go out with me, and she's like, I have a boyfriend. And so I'm like, oh, I moved here. She goes, well, you didn't tell me you were going to move here. And so I'm like, so we had a little laugh or whatever. And I said, I'm already here. And so the next week I asked her out again, and she's like, what, are you out of your mind? And I said, well, I'm still here. And she goes, well, I still have a boyfriend. So we laughed a little bit there. And next week I asked her out again, and then next week, and 25 times, finally the 27th time, she finally agreed to go out with me. And by that time I had a job and I was doing something. I don't know what I was doing. But I had great seats to the old Fulton County Stadium for a Met game, Brave game.
Braves, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. And so she came to the game with me, and it was a great game. And I got a ball from Doc Gooden. Still have the ball. And then finally, so we started dating after that, and still married 30 years later, a couple of kids and all that stuff. I asked her, I said, why did you finally agree to go out with me after all that time? And she said something which I think is pretty profound in business and just in life. She said, I figured if you were willing to work this hard to get me, you'd be willing to work equally as hard to keep me. And so I realized, it's kind of flattering when you really want something for the other person. And I think it's like that for business or a job or anything you really want. People are kind of trained to find your why and find your purpose and all that, which is very, very important. And your values, keep you aligned with all that. But not many people know what they want. And so you can't say, you got to know what you want and then align your values in order to get that. And you're willing to do things and say things and become the person you need to become to get that which you really want. And time should be spent figuring that out. Otherwise you drift, and you can drift for a freaking lifetime. And then one day you wake up and you're like, I feel lost. Well, that's because you never knew what you really wanted. And really, I think that's what God wants for you. To know what you want, it's so he could help you get there. And that's what your values are. Your values of gratitude, forgiveness, accountability, courage, kindness. All those things are God-given for you to achieve that which you want. And what happens is people, putz around on their phones and on their computers and just spin, always looking for something else. Maybe something else is going to hit me that I want more than. No, sit back quietly. What do you want? And money, by the way, is not the kicker. You can't, and because as soon as you achieve whatever you want, whatever goal you want, as soon as you achieve it, it's like a third of a second and you're already unsatisfied. Because now you're worried, can I do it next month? Or can I do it next year? Or maybe I should do a bigger number. It's not, you can never reach it. And you get to a point where you can never reach that being satisfied, then you stop trying. And so, the only thing you really can be satisfied is to search for peace in your heart. There are times like when you're in the zone, or times when you're just feeling so at one with the world. That happened to me at a point on that hitchhiking trip. But when you're right at that feeling, you're like, man, I want this forever. I want this feeling. And then you can put together a plan and reverse engineer it in order to achieve that feeling on a regular basis. I did not intend for this to get that deep.
I love it. That's what this is all about. So I'll ask you the final question. With all of your very unique experiences,
Yes.
what's something important that you've learned through that you think everyone should know?
Oh, gosh. So distill my entire life into
Just
how many a sentence?
I won't say the most. I said something, not the one thing, but
okay. Yeah, family matters. Family matters. I was at a baby shower yesterday, and I've never been to a baby shower. By the way, those little games that you play are just asinine, but I understand why they do it. It's kind of a fun thing. It's important to the mom too. But I remember when we had our first child, and my dad, who only had a 6th grade education, never gave me much advice. He was living in Nazi occupied France when he was 13. Lost his father, my grandfather, in a concentration camp. Was hiding out for a while and all that stuff. So he didn't really have the education. But he came to America. When he gave me some advice, it always started like this. It said, Danny, in this country, and then he'd give me his stuff, and it was, and a couple of things. This isn't what I was going to talk about. A couple of them were real good. He said, Danny, in this country, half effort doesn't give you half results. Half effort gives you no results, which is good. You got to be all in. But when we had our first child, everybody gives you advice. I mean, everybody knows the best thing to do and all that stuff. And they all mean well. And he told me, he said 2 things. He said, first, he said, anything you and Sharon decide to do is the right thing. Don't let anyone tell you anything else. Do what you feel is right. You'll take care of it. And secondly, he said, now that you have a child, nobody cares about you anymore. It's over. Okay? You're not living for you anymore. It's that. And he was big with that with family. When we got married, he said this other thing. This is probably a good one too. He said, when you get married, he said, if you go into it 50-50, you're going to get divorced. He says, you give 90% and hope she gives 10% back. And to his credit, he said the same thing to her. And if you both give 90% and only expect 10%, you'll have a long and healthy marriage. And that's what your children see, and that's what your surroundings see. And pretty soon, if you act like the person that you'd like to become, very soon you'll see that person in the mirror. What do you think of that? But I just keep throwing them out there, don't I?
Thank you. You have said so much, and you keep going with it. I don't know how you do it, but thank you.
Well, this was great. You're a terrific interviewer, and I love that you get me to talk about myself, which is apparently my favorite topic.
Yeah, I can see. I love it. Yeah.